Gabrielle, how you doing? Okay, so I didn't have time for the timeline updated along with some biography information. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. So um, right now, the submission is a little bit short, I think, in sketches. And one thing I want to remind you, I kind of want to bring up in terms of presentation, whenever you submit thumbnails or sketches, make sure you want to make it as easy as possible for the viewer to look at the work. So this is something you want to really stay away from, is presenting sketches that are oriented in the way that they're meant to be. So this is turned sideways, so we can really makes it difficult for the viewer to take a look at these. So keep that in mind in your presentations moving forward. You always want to make it as easy as possible for the viewer to look at your conceptual development, specifically in regard to sketches. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing some sketches, I'm seeing some ideas being expressed, but I'm not seeing a real tight concept being drawn. So in other words, I'm seeing Barack Obama. By the way, you need a tagline on the front too. So the couple of things that we're missing that tagline on the front. We're also missing you've got your biographical information, but we definitely need the timeline, dates, and information also. So those are missing. And you might want to consider submitting those to this post because that is part of grading for part one of this post. Then we'll take a look at that and make your changes for Sunday. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. So you've got a couple of sketches. You've got basically 3 sketches. I'm not seeing a whole lot of conceptual tie between the front and the back of the sketches. Okay, so in other words, we got the front right here. This is the example. You've got your front right here, then here's the back. But the timeline, there's no conceptual tie between the front and the back of the poster. Let me just give you a little example of what you might be able to do here. So you could take this Barack Obama right here, and what I would do here is there's not enough here in terms of filling in the blanks, so to speak, or continuation in terms of Gestalt theory. There's not enough here for the eye to be able to say, but we can figure it out because we're so familiar with this name. We've all been looking at it for several years now. But prior to Barack becoming president, or prior for him running for president, he wasn't a household name. Therefore, those who are not familiar with him would have a real problem deciphering what this says. And for precisely the reasons that you said, is because there's just not enough here for the mind to create this continuation to know that should be an A. Okay? So one of the things I think that we could do, and this will give you an example of concept development. You could take your A right here and just bring it over, duplicate it, bring it right over, and superimpose it right over that. So we have this A coming like this, but we also have this line that's coming like this, kind of creating this little maze here, up through this A, down, over on the crossbar, down, up, over here. It's like a maze, and then down, off, and off the page. And I think that's conceptually strong because it kind of represents his travails as a president. Being that he was the first black president, there were a lot of uncharted territories, and it was like a maze for him. So I think that's a really strong concept. Now you could take that a step further and take the crossbars out of the A's, just take this shape right here, okay, bring it to the bottom, and use that as your timeline. Okay, that's going to draw a really nice continuation. First of all, it's going to establish concept because, as I said, you're equating the A and the presentation of the A to this kind of maze-like confrontation that he had as being the first African-American president, right? That's developing the concept and then taking that and continuing that concept through to the development of the timeline. So you're continuing the visual development of that concept off through the back of the page and through the timeline. So I think that's an interesting example of one way that you could approach this. So moving forward, don't forget presentation for week 5, first submission must include your biographic information, which you have, but also your timeline dates and events for the timeline. You've got your image chosen. That's great. And then I'd like to see a couple more. I'd like to see a couple more sketches depicting some of your conceptual development, and really strive to create some conceptual development between the front and the back. And you're welcome to use the example I just gave you, but I'd like to see some further sketches as well. All right, so if you have any questions, Gabrielle, please let me know. I'll be glad to clarify. Thank you.